Om Namo Narayana. We are reading today chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and we are starting with verse 29. By transformation of the false ego in passion, intelligence takes birth. The functions of intelligence are to help in ascertaining the nature of objects when they come into view, and to help the senses. Doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep, as determined by their different functions, are said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. Egoism, the mode of passion, produces two kinds of senses: the senses for acquiring knowledge and the senses of action. The senses of action depend on the vital energy, and the senses for acquiring knowledge depend on intelligence. When egoism and ignorance is agitated by the sex energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the subtle element sound is manifested, and from the sound come the ethereal sky and the sense of hearing. Persons who are learned, who have true knowledge, define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of either. The activities and characteristics of the ethereal element can be observed as the accommodation of room for the external and internal existences of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind. From ethereal existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch, and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as the subtle form of air. The action of the air is exhibited in movements, mixing, allowing approach to the objects of sound and other sense perceptions, and providing for the proper functioning of all other senses. By interactions of the air and the senses of touch, one receives different forms according to destiny. By evolution of such forms there is fire, and the eye sees different forms in color. The characteristics of form are understood by dimension, quality, and individuality. The form of fire is appreciated by its effulgence. Fire is appreciated by its light, and by its ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, and to give rise to hunger, thirst, eating, and drinking. By the interaction of fire and the visual sensation, the subtle element taste evolves under a superior arrangement. From taste, water is produced, and the tongue, which perceives taste, is also manifested. Although originally one, taste becomes manifold as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty due to contact with other substances. The characteristics of water are exhibited by its moistening other substances, coagulating various mixtures, causing satisfaction, maintaining life, softening things, driving away heat, incessantly supplying itself to reservoirs of water, and refreshing by slaking thirst. Due to the interaction of water with the taste perception, the subtle element odor evolves under superior arrangement. Thence the earth and the olfactory sense, by which we can variously experience the aroma of the earth, become manifest. Odor, although one, becomes many, as mixed, offensive, fragrant, mild, strong, acidic, and so on, according to the proportions of the associated substances. The characteristics of the function of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. The sense whose object of perception is form, the distinctive characteristic of fire, is the sense of sight. The sense whose object of perception is taste, the distinctive characteristic of water, is known as the sense of taste. Finally, the sense whose object of perception is odor, the distinctive characteristic of earth, is called the sense of smell. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the latter. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature entered into the universe with the total material energy in 7 divisions. From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose, from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. The universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by pradhana. Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are part. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg, which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory sense, as well as prana, the vital air. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god, who presides over that sense. Thereafter a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god, who presides over it. Next there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, and in its wake the Digdavadas, or the deities, preside over the directions. Then the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, manifested his skin, and thereupon the hair, mustache, and beard appeared. After this all the herbs and drugs became manifested, and then his genitals also appeared. After this, semen, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe. Thereafter, the 2 hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them the power of grasping and dropping things, and after that Lord Indra appeared. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them the process of movement, and after that Lord Vishnu appeared. The veins of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles, or blood. In their wake came the rivers, and then appeared an abdomen. Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of the oceans. Then a heart became manifest, and in the wake of the heart the mind appeared. After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next, and after that, and after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva, and after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. When the demigods and presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to wake their origin of appearance, but upon failing to do so, they re-entered the body of the Virat Purusha one after another in order to wake him. The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with a sense of smell, but still he refused to be awakened. The sun god entered his eyes with the sense of sight, but still he did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears with a sense of hearing, but to no avail. The predominating deities of the skin, herbs, and seasoning plants entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but nothing happened. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but nothing. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation, but he could not be made to stir. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but he refused to rise. Then the moon god entered his heart with the mind, but he could not be roused. Brahman also entered his heart with intelligence, but the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but nothing. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment the cosmic being arose from causal waters. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working the mind and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can only be aroused when the supersoul helps him. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge, acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that supersoul is present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Thus ends chapter 26. Well, that was long and detailed and had a creation story and a reverse creation story or something. Wow, so much. But that last verse is the most important one. Basically, it says, through devotion, detachment, to devotion, detachment, advancement, and spiritual knowledge, one should contemplate the supersoul as present in the very body. And that's the key to everything. And the verse before it, Lord Vishnu here can only be aroused when the supersoul helps him. But that's the same for all of us. All these other things, hearing and seeing and knowledge, they're just material things. But it takes that soul that is a part of me and connects me to this door and that shelf and the light and the camera. That is the most important thing, and that is what's inside of us and what should be taken care of. When everything else fails, that's what we have. That is the most important thing here. That final bit brings all this together. And I'm always saying in videos, what are we learning here, but how it would affect us spiritually? Okay, this is like a detailed event, but what does it mean for us? What does it mean? This is a question we ask. Actually, it's a question we don't ask. Like in school, people go, why should I learn algebra? Or what do I care about George Washington? Or why do I need to know where countries are on a map? And they ask that question because the real question is, what do I do with this to help me as a person? But they don't really ask that question. Instead, they say, well, what year the country was founded and why do I care? It's too specific of a question. And if I'm never going to use it, what can I get out of this lesson of value to me that I can use? That's the question we should use. And if we ask that question to every topic in school, well, I'd like to say kids would like school better, but maybe not. I don't know. But that's the most important question I think you can ask. How is this going to work for me, even though it seemingly is abstract? What can I do with this? What can I do with this? Because then it becomes valuable, whatever you're studying. I own all this stuff between my girlfriend and I, which is great, but what does it mean to me? What can I do with it? That's the question. Alright, you can answer that question. You can talk about something else in this chapter. Feel free down below in the comments. Thank you for hanging with me. Next time, chapter 27, as we I'd say charge our way to the end of Canto 3, but looks like there's still a little bit here. Anyways, thank you for watching with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.